Hey, so this is Joe Tommaso, and I'm here with Louise, and we're going to be speaking about different aspects of the Crowley case. This is our second video in which we are presenting evidence, not just word of mouth, not just opinion, but actual evidence to you, the listener. Louise, hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Joe. How are you?
Okay.
Good.
So I think the first thing we wanted to do was to go over the results from item 57, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So, anyways, item 57.1, as you can tell, it's male DNA profile matches David Timothy Crowley. It does not match Komel. It does not match Raniya. Okay. So now with that, okay, we want to
Yeah.
go. Okay, we want to bring up the fact that there's a lot of disinformation. Okay, and they're saying that there's no DNA. This right here, okay, shows there is DNA. It is David's DNA on this bullet. Okay, and if it's not, I mean, it's the fatal bullet that went
Yeah.
through David. It doesn't matter if it's hair, skin, bone, brain matter. David's DNA is on there. All DNA, as explained by Dan Crane and Greg Hanpeikian, is in fact the same. Okay.
Exactly. And it can be microscopic. You can't necessarily see it with the naked eye. And um, there aren't any pictures really that show you that bullet, say in a clinical setting. Do you know what I mean? They show it in the attic, but you, along with the insulation and everything else, you can't really see the condition of the bullet. So you don't know what else is on the underside and everything else.
Exactly. And they swabbed several sections of the bullets. Now, another bit of misinformation that's out there is the fact that supposedly, the DNA got on there from, David loading the magazine. And we know that to be false because there's no further DNA on
On
the
any
other
other,
bullets.
no. So you would expect it to be there if it was
Exactly.
from him putting each bullet into the magazine
Exactly.
or
So,
somebody else.
right. Now, also, I think we're going to move on to the second thing we got here.
No. Yes.
Okay. As you can tell in the red circle, there is a male, and he's obviously with the investigators, whether he be BCA, whether he be Dakota County, whether he be Apple Valley. You're
It's while the
gonna
house is still an active crime scene, isn't it?
Yes, this is while they're going through everything, they're taking pictures, etc. Um, and it's very possible, given the time on it, that the bodies were indeed still here. Now, you see me circling right here.
Yeah.
What am I showing people?
No full overalls and bearskin arms.
Okay, and we all know that DNA is shed. Thousands and thousands of DNA skin cells fall off.
Arm hair.
Yep, exactly.
Sweat.
So this male right here has this.
And we don't know, because we can't see his face, we don't know whether he's got a mask on or
Right,
anything
exactly.
like that.
Yep. If he doesn't have any type of a mask, he could be spreading saliva, talking to other people, etc. Exactly.
Sneezing,
Mhm.
retching.
Yep, exactly. And there's possibility we're retching, which is gonna be evidence from the next thing I'm gonna show. We're gonna go out of here again. Screen's pausing. We're gonna go to share screen again, and we are going to go to this. Can you see that photo?
I can. The
Okay.
photographer.
Exactly. There is a female photographer right here. You can see she's wearing a winter coat. She has the neoprene or the rubber gloves on. Okay, right here. Now notice you can see her hair. Okay.
Yeah.
So her hair is exposed. Now I'm going to zoom in here for a minute. Let's just bring this right up. Is it zooming for you?
Not yet. It is now.
Okay. Do you see what I'm pointing at right now?
I can, but I know what it is, but you might need to zoom in a little bit more.
Okay, so I will bring it in a little further. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So now you can actually see her hair a bit better. You can still tell, as I said, she's got the glove on, the coat, etc. So this part is covered. However, the hair is not. So it's possible that could have, left DNA behind. There's skin exposed. But I'm sure she adjusted what I'm about to point to. Right here, and right here, you have a full face mask respirator. Okay, full-blown respirator. Now, when you have one of these respirators on, you're gonna sweat. You're gonna
Yeah.
move. You're gonna be adjusting this, and she's got the camera right here, so she's obviously holding the camera against the shield, which you can see right here. Okay, to get the photo.
Yeah.
So she's going to be moving this around. She'll definitely be shedding DNA. In addition to that, this respirator definitely 100% is evidence, okay, that what do you call it? That
The odor was quite overwhelming.
Exactly. The odor was there. What do you call it? And I'm looking,
which is stated in numerous reports.
Right. We've said numerous times, and they've stated numerous times that the family was thought to have been deceased. Here we go, right here. So she's wearing a full respirator. This indicates as well as supports the evidence from multiple police reports and the supplements, as well as from Sergeant Dahlstrom and Officer Broughton, that the odor or the smell of decomposition was overwhelming. This in itself, as well as the law enforcement personnel's visual, description, also supports the suggested time frame of approximately 3 weeks from the actual occurrence and the discovery of the family.
Yeah.
So now we also need to bring up, I believe, something else. The cross contamination. So people have brought up, the fact that some of these items, have cross contamination. We just showed you in this picture how the contamination could have occurred. Now, what we need to bring out there is, in speaking with BCA, which is the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, it was in fact explained that BCA did not obtain samples of DNA for comparison from personnel or the cleaning company. So there's nothing to go back to and say, well, this is John Smith from the cleaning company. This is Detective Jones from the AVPD. There's nothing to go back to because they did not do that.
Exactly. And when the cleaning company were in the house, at that point, they're there to clean up the house and all the mess. They're not really going there sort of thinking, oh, we're going to find evidence. Their PPE is to protect them from getting any nasty bugs or anything like that. So when you're pulling gloves out of a box to change your gloves because you've got stuff on them, you're not thinking, I better not touch the outside of the gloves in case I come across something and some of my sweat is on the outside of the gloves, and then you inadvertently touch something.
Exactly. The police department, the investigators may think that way because that's the way they're trained. However, the cleaning company is not going to be trained that way.
I agree.
Okay, so we need to also
I think
point
it's
out,
logical.
I think we also need to point out at this point too, since we're talking about the stage of decomposition that the family was in.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to point that out because there's some discrepancy as to Raniya and her arm.
Yeah.
And at 3 weeks, the ligaments, the muscles, the joints themselves are going to be deteriorated to an extent that Paleo could have pushed his paws into her rib
Yeah.
and pulled back and took off her arm. And we also know there's another bit of misinformation out there that supposedly her arm from the shoulder to her hand is not anywhere to be found. And we're well aware that it is in the crime scene photos.
Yeah. We're not going to go into where it is or anything like that, but it's quite clear when you look at the list of things that are missing from the body, skulls, and they're in pieces on the floor, fingers and finger bones, then
right. And the finger bones, the finger bones, the finger bones are evident not just in different areas of the home, but they're actually in the dog feces.
Yeah, but you can tell from the size of these particular, there's something on the sofa, there's something on the floor. It's definitely not skull, and it's definitely not finger.
Right. There's
Therefore,
also
anything left it can be.
There's also something in a photo that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
So if you really take the time to look at that photo and not just apply filters, you will see what's missing.
Exactly.
So
missing from the body, not missing from the house.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, we're well aware of different bones that were found, pieces of skull, etc. Okay, we're also aware of the clothing and what was on it, between the decomp fluid, the blood, etc. So, and they were actually able to pinpoint who was killed at what point, or in what order, I should say.
Yeah.
So
when people say that there isn't enough blood, there is. Their clothes were covered.
Right, their clothes were covered,
and it's described like that in the autopsy reports when they're describing the clothes and stuff. So let's move on from there.
Right, and then the other thing, we got into this for those of you who have not seen the other video that we put out prior to this video. I'm suggesting you go over to YouTube to Crowley Case Facts or Fiction, and you take a look at the prior video. You will see what we're talking about regarding the floor. There is plenty of evidence showing where all the blood went. So I think the next thing we're going to want to bring up here, okay, is, let's see if I can see this here. Yep, got it right here. We're going to bring up Mike Boggio in an interview that he did with Dan Hennon. You can see that, Louise?
I can, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure if for some reason you don't see it, okay, do me a favor and let me know.
I will.
Okay, and when you, I want to make sure just right here. Okay, hopefully you can hear it. If you can't, let me know, and we shall
Will
try
do.
to fix it. So Mike Boggio did a interview with Dan Hennon. Dan asked him to, and Dan is also featured in this. And sections of this video, which is no longer on YouTube, um, however, we have the full video, but the video itself is no longer on YouTube. So unfortunately, other than what we're showing you right now, you're not going to be able to find it unless Dan decides to make it public again, which
I think it is. I think it's been re-uploaded on,
okay,
the grey stage. I think
right.
Greg has
Well, okay.
re-uploaded
So
it.
if it's there, oh, that's great. If
But
if it's there on the gray stage, please, by all means, pay attention to where we are showing you to go. It's really important that you listen to this, and then if you think anything's hinky about this, you can go hear it for yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the deal or no deal first. Okay.
yeah, because
So
also the sound's not brilliant at times on this audio, so it might be easier to go and listen to the original re-upload so that you can hear for yourself that what's being said is being said. We're not trying to put words into anyone's mouth and say that they're saying something that they're not saying.
right. So at 11:33, which we're at 11:31, what we want to show you guys, and I'm looking right here in my notes. Okay. We want to show you that David was not first of all, we want to show you that there was no actual deal. They were in negotiations. Okay. In addition to being in negotiations, there's misinformation yet again that David was going to be getting $30 million. Okay. There was a $30 million budget. Okay. By budget,
Yeah,
we need to clarify because a lot of people are being misled. We need to
budget
clarify,
for the whole project.
right, for the project.
Costings of it being made, employing various stage managers, set creators, makeup artists, the whole shebang.
Right. And video, people who were doing the video, people who were, videographers, sound people, the actual, stages that were being used, etc.
Runners, caterers.
Yep, it goes on and on and on. So let's listen to Mike Boggio and Dan in their own words.
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with the quote from Jordan Page that came out saying that David and Gray State was in the middle of a $30 million deal from a company in Hollywood? Is that partially true? Is that half true? Is that Jordan Page was the musician in the? Yeah, I know Jordan. Okay, so he came out and said that, and he was criticized roundly for that. But I think a lot of people came back and said, you know what? I think he's got some of that right and partially right. He obviously wasn't lying, but it may have been just construed because his quote on Facebook said the film was about to start production with a $30 million budget from a major Hollywood studio. So I've got multiple questions on that, but could you talk to that a little bit first? This just kind of ties into my first question for you that you were kind of.
Okay, so that is the very first thing that we wanted to bring up. The $30 million was not being paid to David. That $30 million was actually going for the what do you call it? For the actual production cost. In addition, we're gonna further go from here, okay, to another section where you will repeatedly from 12 minutes and 29 seconds until 13 minutes and 31 seconds, you are going to hear Mike Boggio and Dan Hennon even admit, okay, you're going to hear Mike Boggio say, you're going to also hear Dan Hennon even admit that there was no deal. There was no signed contract. Mike Boggio, not once, not twice, but 4 times explicitly tells Dan that, they were in negotiations. There's also a point where Dan himself calls it not a deal, but a perspective, i.e., it is in the process. Okay, so they're negotiating. There's no deal. So let's go on with that.
A startup 1-year-old company. Was it your firm that he was talking to as far as a major Hollywood studio, or is that another company?
I can't speak for Dave. I mean, I can't speak for that. I don't know if he was in talks with anybody else or not. But I'm going to tell you, we were in talks. I mean, we were negotiating with David at the time. We were talking about budgets for the film. We were talking about getting into production. Like I said, we had a list of A-list actors that I'm not going to even mention in this interview.
Correct.
We had a list of A-list actors that were potential for the movie. And we talked about a $25 to $30 million budget. We could easily see the budget of this film being a $25 to $30 million budget. So, and at the time all this was going down, we were negotiating back and forth with David, his lawyer. So, there were negotiations. We were actually
Okay, so now we just heard that Mike Boggio said negotiations. Okay, so let's jump over next, okay, to 1404 to 1428. Let's see where we are here.
Particularly on social media.
Okay, oops, went past it.
There was no contract that was signed, and I drew
Actually, I went a little bit too far, so we'll go
a
here.
potential deal, but there was no contract that was signed, and I drew a lot of flack for that because, and I agree that there was no contract signed, but you guys were going down that path with an agreement of some sort, right?
correct.
That's
Correct. As far as I know, as far as
So-
I know,
So right there, you heard Dan himself say there was no contract. Okay, so Dan is fully aware. Dan is fully aware that there's no contract. Yet for some reason, he's
He
telling
keeps
you guys
telling
there
everyone
is.
that there is.
So let's just go back to the beginning of this again, so we make sure we don't miss anything. Hold on.
the discussion that we had.
Hold on. Go back over here. We'll back it up a little bit more here.
There was no contract that was signed, and I drew a lot of flack for that because
Did I just hear him say it again? There was no contract.
I think you did.
So now the other thing we need to bring up, and I'm gonna bring this. If I bring this down, I'm gonna actually stop screen sharing this for a second. And I'm gonna go back into I'm gonna go into here, and I want to show people something before we play the next portion of this. Okay, so we're gonna go into here again, and we're gonna click the screen, and we're gonna go ding 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 right here. Can you see that, Louise?
I certainly can.
Okay. Now, we're going to play a portion in a couple of minutes regarding Mike Boggio, where he states that David, in sometime in September, stopped returning phone calls and stopped communicating with the mics, etc. But can you do me a favor and tell me what it states in this right here?
It says November the 7th. I text David to see if he's still alive after finding he gave DJ his new phone number.
Okay, so who is actually stating that?
David's dad.
Okay, so this is Dan Senior.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Then it says November the 8th. He replies that everything is great. Family life had swept them away. I reply, how are the negotiations going with the producers? He replied on November the 9th, I walked from it. Reasons of the spirit, I guess. Then the last bit's irrelevant. That's just about Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh. So basically, this is David telling his dad that he's not working with the Mikes or anybody right now.
Yeah. For
And-
whatever reason of the spirit, only David knows. But
So I can take that. I can take that possibly as, I don't know. There's no more $30 million budget, that's for sure.
yeah, he's had a change of heart.
Mhm.
That's all. I don't want to put words into what David may or may, I don't know what he was thinking or feeling, but he's clearly telling his dad that he's had a change of heart.
Okay, so let's listen to Mike Boggio. I want to pull up screen share again, and I'm going to go back over to Mike Boggio's interview with Dan Hennon, and we will go to the 25-minute mark. Hold on.
And I agree that there was no.
Okay, we're getting up there. Don't want to zip by it again like I just did a second ago. Let's
Are
do it.
found, but
Here.
that's very much in alignment with what I've been hearing. The other concept that I'd like to square away with you guys from Michael Entertainment Group is there was conjecture that David either the talks broke down and you guys cut him off, or David left, or David quote walked away, and the agreements just didn't work out.
Now, we just heard Dan Hennon say that either the Mikes cut off the negotiations or David cut off the negotiations, which goes right with what we just said and showed the listeners, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue.
So it ultimately got down to there's two types of people out there following this case. They fall into two camps. One believed that Michael Entertainment Group essentially fired David or broke off the talks and says, screw you, get lost. Or David said, here, I know I got the offer. I'm all set to make fake bucks. You know what? It's not for me because I want to run I do not want to be just a producer. I want to be the director on the film, and I don't want anything changed. I don't want anything altered with this script. Therefore, see you later. I'm going to move and part ways. Those are two camps that we're dealing with. And if you could talk to that a little bit as far as what you think was more of the truth.
Either one of them. Either one of those even came into play when we were in discussions with David. And David knew he wasn't going to be the director. We discussed that early on with David because he wasn't a known director. So if we were going to go into this film with a $25 to $30 million budget, David couldn't be the director. We would have needed a top name director in the industry, which has clout.
Now, you just heard that again with this $30 million budget. David would not have even been the director because, as Mike Boggio said, he was an unknown director and he had no clout.
Yeah.
Okay? So and David knew that from day one. And David was fine with that. David was going to be actually in the A team. We were going to make David the assistant director. And that's what we discussed with David. So we didn't fire David or we didn't get rid of David or however that went. And he didn't walk away from us. I mean, there was never any of that. And I don't even know where those ideas came from.
Yeah, I think there was.
To my knowledge.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't see it myself, not nervous for our business transactions, but just nervous because I couldn't. I mean, listen, David and I became friends. Not only were we business acquaintances, but we became friends. So, you know, I mean, I called him on the holidays and wished him a happy Thanksgiving to him and his family, and you know, whatever. I mean, I did that numerous times until I heard the very, very disturbing news. You know, so.
Now, how was your how did you receive the news of this, and how did you process that after working so close and becoming friends with David?
I was in total shock. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it.
And then,
actually, at the house, so Christmas comes, December 14, I guess it is, comes around. I called David on Christmas, around Christmas time to wish him and Komel and the baby a, you know, happy holidays. I went out of town for New Year's. When I got back, I called him to wish him a happy New Year. And then I still didn't hear anything, so I felt it was kind of weird. So I contacted a mutual friend that David and I both had and asked this person, like, let me take a step backwards. Prior to that, I called this person saying, man, I haven't heard from David in like at least a month. Have you heard from him? He's like, no, but it's the holidays. You guys got him in the studio writing. He's been, you know, when he gets into that writing mode, he shuts down and he secludes himself and he just focuses on what he has to do. He goes, but as the holidays are coming up, I'll run by and see him and see the family, how things are going. And I'm like, all right, cool. So like another month goes by, and then after New Year's, after I left David a Happy New Year message on this voicemail, I called this person and said, man, I still haven't heard from David. Did you go over the Crowley? He's like, no. And then like the next day, the guy called me and said, did you hear? And when he told me, I was in total shock.
wow, because and you also knew Komel. She was out there for one or two of the visits also, and took a picture of you guys standing together. What was your thoughts on Komel?
I thought she was amazing. Her and I have a lot in common. She was a nutritionist, and I'm very heavily into nutrition and paleo and all that other stuff. And so her and I hit it off very, very well because we have the same interests, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we had many great conversations about the whole paleo diet and nutrition and eating healthy and all that other stuff. So I mean, we always had great conversations about that.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, so that again, okay, falls into line with the previous photo. Let me see if it's still, or the previous slide that I showed you guys, that showed that David walked away. So I think the next thing we wanted to handle, if I remember correctly, had to do with misinformation.
I just like to say though, I just find that interview, you know, I really feel bad for Mike Boggio because he clearly did have a friendship with David and Komel.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like,
definitely. I mean, you heard him. He outright said the same thing we've heard from everybody, that David was this, you know, or seemed to be this good guy, seemed to have it all together. And Komel, he described as being simply amazing.
yeah. And he says, you know, I mean, it's not just on the business level, it was on the friendship level. And although David didn't actually contact them and say, look, I've had a change of heart, I don't want to move forward with you, or I'm not happy with the terms and conditions that we're negotiating, he didn't say anything.
Nope.
He just avoided further contact as a potential business deal,
Right.
and as a friend.
I mean,
and that, you know, he's saying in the interview that after September, he started to notice at a certain point that he hadn't heard anything, and bless him, you know, he did try and reach out, and that's a sad thing with it. You know, he was concerned.
Yep. It really is sad that, you know, that happened. It really is. So The other thing we wanted to bring up too, because the misinformation about this, and I'm going to pop that right up here in a second, is the fact that during the investigation, it was brought up, not just the fact of them not um talking, okay, to everybody, but and like being MIA with with the mics. But we also know that David also, there was conjecture, I'll call it, and that they broke off talking to their families. They broke off talking to quite a few people. So that I'm going to bring up the following slide, because there was, did David do it? Did Komel do it? Did some outside force do it? Okay, we want to bring this up because we've been talking about it for a little bit. So let's go to this slide right here. And can you see that?
I can.
Okay. Can you tell the listeners what we're looking at?
We're looking at a police report when the investigators went and spoke with David's mum, Kate Crowley, about what they discovered and
Okay.
the deaths.
Okay. And that was not just with Kate, but that was with Allison. And this was the primary lead on this one was Detective Sean Knight, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did David's mom and Allison tell them?
That they hadn't, she had not seen David, Komel, or her granddaughter since the birthday party in August. She's not spoken with them either and had concerns because they changed their phone number. She had no insight into why they had done this. She said that the one thing she was sure of was that David and Komel loved each other and that they loved their daughter. She had trouble believing that David would do anything to harm his family without Komel being in agreement with him.
So this is based again on a murder-suicide, but more of a joint suicide.
Yeah, and that she's not saying, I don't think that David did this. She's
Right.
saying the only way that I can think that David would do it was if Komel was in agreement,
a part of it,
and that they all loved each other.
Right. Now, this right here led to something else about 7 months later, which we're going to stop here and we're going to go over and we're going to bring up the next item. Okay. Go right here and bring that down. Okay, so right now we're looking at a non-certified record or death, and this is for Kate Crowley. I'm going to see. I'm not sure if it'll do it, but I'm going to try. Louise, is that getting a little bit bigger? Louise?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself and talk to myself.
So is that a little bit bigger? Can you read it or no?
I can zoom in on my screen and then I'd be able to read it, or you can zoom in.
Okay, I just actually zoomed in a little bit, but I guess it's not here. Let me try something else. I shall stop. I shall go back. Okay. Oh, don't want to do that. Oh, God, I hate when stuff like this happens. We'll go back to share screen. We will go back to this and see if you see. Do you see the bigger version now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so what we're looking at is a non-certified record of death, and this is from the Steele County Coroner's Office.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is for Kate Crowley. This was 7 months after the Crowley family was found.
Yeah.
The date was around, it was August of 2015.
Yeah. I think it's
So,
August the 10th.
okay. And Kate Crowley was found unresponsive and passed away at the home.
Yeah.
Now, it was said and misinformation was put out there, like we know about what do you call it? About Kate stating that there's no way David could have did this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we just saw that it was very possible that David had done this. And if he did do it, it would have 100% been in agreement with Komel. Okay.
As far as Kate was
Right.
concerned.
As far as she was concerned. So she wasn't out there on a crusade to try
No.
and prove her son innocent.
And
Okay.
she doesn't say in that report, I don't believe my son did this.
Right. So here's the next thing we want to point out. Misinformation was dispersed out there, okay, that Kate died a violent death, that she had blood coming out of her ears and nose, and she was found on the rear patio and all this, okay, and that she was poisoned, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want everybody to take a look where the cursor is. See right here? Okay. And I brought the cursor over here. This is showing the manner of death. That says natural. Okay. That means a normal person just died of natural causes. Okay. It's also been put out there that Kate had no medical conditions. And in fact, she did. Okay. So, I mean,
It says that reoccurrent pancreatitis,
Yep.
history of upper gastrointestinal
problems
bleeding.
within the
Oh,
past
I
year.
think,
Yep.
yeah.
It was bleeding within the past year. Correct. Okay. So now the funny thing is,
I mean, I'd class that as some health conditions.
yep. And but here's the funny thing. The individual stating, well, there's a couple things I want to point out here. Okay. First, the individual stating that she had died violently, et cetera, et cetera, okay, was none other than Dan Hennon. And I find that funny because this document that I'm showing everybody right now actually came from a Facebook page that Dan Hennon had up previously called The Strange Death of Kate Crowley or something similar to that.
Yeah, or the inquiry into the strange death of Kate Crowley, something like
Right.
that.
Right. So he has this page. He receives not only this record, okay, but I'm going to pop that one off. I'm going to get down here and I'm going to go to the next record and see if we, and actually, yeah, I'm going to go right to the next record. I figure this will probably work. Okay. So we're going to go to the next record, which I need to take a look at it really quick. Oops. Okay, I'm trying to find, I know what this is. Okay, here we go. Okay. This is from the same report. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see this. It's right here as to why she died. Okay. So now I want to take you back out of here because there's yet a third document. Okay. That I want to show you guys. And I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to open this one up. Okay. And I want you guys to see this again, firsthand. Now, these are documents that Dan was in possession of. He actually had these out on a Facebook page. And I got to tell you, not only was he, I mean, he must have took some of these people to be fools. Okay. Because it says natural causes. He displayed this document in the second one, okay, even though it says natural causes right here, and told people she was poisoned. And let's get on to that poisoning, shall we? Okay, let's take a little look at the notes here because there's a lot of different things here. So, I mean, my understanding is, well, actually, let me back off. Kate, Dan did not just push Kate's untimely death as being another conspiracy. Okay. He also, okay, decided to go to the Antanawa papers. Okay. Specifically, we're going to go and show you guys. Actually, I believe I actually have that, so I don't have to go looking for it. Let's go here. Yes, we do. So we're going to go first to this. This is a Facebook post between Dan Hennon, which started on 10/20, which was a Tuesday, where he contacts the Ontonawa People's Press, which is the local newspaper, looking for the results from the Mayo Clinic toxicology report. Now, this is going to come in handy for you guys. I want you to pay attention to this. Dan is looking for the report for the toxicology report on Kate. He states he's been basically following this for 9 weeks. Okay. He also tells them, let me know if you followed up with the police department regarding the toxicology reports. They should be completed. The Awatana paper gets back to him and says, I'll check with the PD and to see if they could share the results of the Mayo report. Thank you for the reminder. They followed up with him stating, Owatonna PD tells me they did not have the toxicology reports as of earlier this month, but that even if they did, the toxicology reports are considered medical data and not available. They still have no indications that her death was suspicious in nature. Right there. They have no indications that death was suspicious in nature. Now we're going to X out of here. We're going to go to yet another page, well, half a page of information from Dan to the paper again. Okay. And they tell him that they would add, which this is an editor of the paper that he's talking to. I should add as well that the police tell me you can call the county coroner's office and learn the cause of death. That much information is public. Okay. This is when Dan took the liberty to obtain the documentation you saw a second ago. Now, this is why I told you guys 9 weeks waiting for a toxicology report. Okay. Look, before I read this next part, okay, we're going to have to tell you some information that we are fully aware of. Okay. Other than Dan pushing this, okay, which you're seeing right now. Okay. There's going to be some other things that I'm going to tell you as well. However, okay, she wasn't poisoned. We all know he actually did get the report, etc. Okay. The information regarding, okay, Kate being poisoned, okay, came from an individual who contacted Dan and claimed to be an aspiring FBI coroner. This individual, in fact, was a Whirlpool company employee. That's Whirlpool as in the washing machine. Okay. More importantly, this crack civilian investigator, in his own words, as you're about to see here, was not even interested in the toxicology reports. Okay. And that is right here. I am not personally interested in the toxicology results. But as a newspaper, I would assume someone would be interested in getting the information on this case out to the public. It doesn't appear that the newspaper finds this unexplained death of a healthy, which we know she wasn't, woman in her early 50s of interest. He then proceeds to say that the case reeks of foul play, and it is the newspaper's responsibility to hold law enforcement accountable if they are indeed covering something up. He's only a concerned citizen, not a citizen investigator, and that's all. The strange death, and this is where he tries to connect Kate's death to her daughter-in-law, her son, and her granddaughter. And it sounds fishy. Okay. So let's take a good look at this now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dan claimed, or this individual, Whirlpool woman, we'll call her,
Yep.
contacts Dan, says, "Hey, I'm an FBI coroner." We all know that she's not. He doesn't check it out. Okay. Just takes the person at their word. That's fine. You know, drop the ball there. Sort of like Apple Valley dropped the ball on the ceiling. Anyways, so he goes with this. Now tell me, I'm not personally interested in the toxicology reports. He's alleging she was poisoned.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you want the toxicology reports?
I mean, I got to tell you, okay, if that doesn't strike anyone else as odd, okay, if you're trying to prove poisoning or a grand conspiracy, then I'm sure you would want the toxicology reports.
Exactly. And you know, regardless, if you were genuinely concerned about what happened, why don't you just want the truth?
Well, the other thing is too, I mean, we see he tried to push his narrative. Okay. For 9 weeks, he sat there doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
He still persisted, even when shown evidence, which we just showed each and every one of you watching this video. He had the death certificate that showed she passed away due to medical issues, and it was a natural death or a death of natural causes. Okay. But he wasn't interested in the toxicology reports. He just wanted to push a narrative.
Yep. And has continued to push narratives that are based on figments of his imagination. Because before Whirlpool Woman, Dan Hennon was trying to push the idea that maybe somebody had hit Kate Crowley with a baseball bat. And was there a baseball bat at the scene?
Wow. Yeah, that was where I think he came up.
And I think like that one didn't go down too well. So they had to then go on to, I know, she was poisoned. And it was with something that you can't trace. And we'll come up with this wild story that is completely unbelievable. And there is absolutely nothing to it. It's ridiculous.
Yep. I mean,
and disrespectful.
Yep.
It makes me feel sick, actually, thinking about the damage and the pain that have been caused to this family through blatant lies. You think if it was your family and people were saying all of this stuff based off of nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my thing is, and what I think, you know, the listeners, I'm going to drop this off really quick so we can get to just our screen where we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe. Oops, hit the wrong button. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I mean, Louise, I don't know. I would assume you're in agreement with me, but I want to say to everybody that's watching this video and everybody who has watched or should watch the other video we did, okay, that's released right about the same time as this one.
Yeah.
We want you guys to know a few things, okay? And we're telling you, don't believe us. We're telling you, listen to what we're saying. We've presented you in this video and the other videos.
And all the other ones that are on our channel.
Right, exactly. We've shown you evidence. Okay. This is evidence. This isn't opinions. This is hard copy documents. Everything we just showed you, okay, is documented. Okay. I mean, look, I mean, this is an example of lies. Okay.
Yeah.
Right here. Go back. Here you go. As far as Kate goes. Okay. Medical issues, natural causes. Okay. Right there. Okay.
Not to
And
mention that the Crowleys, they were seen at the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's office. Kate Crowley was is it Steele County?
right, exactly. Yep. They tried to actually say that the Hennepin County coroner at the time, okay, came out wearing gloves and this whole crazy god, incident that supposedly happened, and it didn't happen. As a matter of fact, I believe we'll just say that the individual's name began with a C, okay, and that he was connected to Kate very well, very closely, and he outright says she was at work.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
She's at work. Then when she passes away, she's taken to a different medical examiner's office. So if, the sinister group of, war, she was poisoned, then you're involving another medical examiner's office saying that they're also involved in covering up something of a cover up. It's ridiculous. And it's based off absolutely zero evidence.
well, here we go again. Okay. Another bit of evidence. You don't want to believe the official police reports. You don't want to believe the official medical examiner records. Okay. Here you go. Right here. This right here, this interview, you want to go listen to it in its entirety? God bless you. However, we just showed you what was said. Okay. David broke off talking to them in September.
That's it. Just nothing. No text, no emails, nothing. So to then say, oh, well, his dad's lying because his dad's told the police and the police have put it in the report that David said. And then you're going, we've got no evidence that David said that.
Well, I got to tell you, and just for you guys, that are listening, I think that we're going to be doing another video after this. And when we do-
Videos, plural.
yeah, well, there'll be plenty of more videos, I'm sure. But I believe in the next video, what we should do is, bring out the fact that not only are people saying that David had the perfect life, yada yada yada. Okay. David Crowley outright said he was having problems. He himself made posts on Facebook that he was having problems. Okay. In addition to that, we're fully aware, and this is right to this day available on his Facebook page. This man was hounded day after day at all hours of the day and night to finish this movie.
Exactly. And putting people under pressure, or that person perceiving that there's pressure, is a genuine, real problem. And it shouldn't be mocked, and it shouldn't be laughed at, and it shouldn't be discarded. David was a real person with real feelings, and he felt real pressure.
Well, the other thing
he was struggling.
The other thing, well, he was. The other thing I wanted to bring out too is I believe during the documentary, was it Chris Peck that actually came out and said that they were hounding him so much on the page that he started banning people.
I think he did, yeah. I think it was Chris Peck. I know someone did, but I'm pretty
sure it was Chris. I'm pretty sure it was Chris, but he outright said that people were literally getting under David's skin to the effect, to the extent that he was banning them from the page. I mean, think about this. You get up at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, you go to check Facebook on your project page, and there's all these people. Do this now. Do this now.
When's it happening? What's happening? Why haven't we heard anything? When are you going to do this? you're not genuine. You're just after
Yep.
people's money.
There you
You're
go
just
right
doing
there.
this.
Yep, there you go right there. There were plenty. I mean, and we're not again, we're not telling you to believe us. Go look. This stuff is right there. I mean, I cannot believe, and I'm sorry, okay, to each and every one of you listening to this, if you are interested in this case and you truly want to know what happened, then I'm suggesting that you go and you read the reports, you look at any photos from BCA. You know what? I'll even go as far as to tell you two things. You could either sign up for Crowley Case Facts or Fiction, or no problem. Go to what is it? Justice for David Crowley and Family. That's Dan and Greg's page. Go there. Look at the pictures. Go to the gray stage. The pictures are there too. Read the reports. When you do, don't just skim them. Read them. If you don't understand something, ask a question. Don't ask a question of Louise's group or Dan's group. Ask the question of a professional. They will tell you what the answer to your question is. You can call coroner's office and say, I'm looking at a death certificate and it says the person died of a myocardial infarction. What is that? And they'll tell you.
Exactly.
They'll
Or
tell
if-
you. They'll
if
tell
you
you
think-
what leveling is.
If you think that somebody pulled off somebody's arm, Google it.
You don't even
Because you
have
won't
to.
find anything.
You don't. Well,
Because it's impossible. So all you'll find is people saying it's impossible for
Actually,
humans
there was
to
a
do that.
regarding that, there was actually a study that was done, and even a child's arm, a child, there used to be this thing, and I mean, I was guilty of this myself. Okay, you know how you grab a kid by the hands and you spin them around and they go airborne, their feet come off the ground, and you might have an older person, their grandmother, great grandmother, etc., and they're yelling at you. You better stop turning them around, because if you don't, you're going to pull their arms out of the socket. Okay. Or you're going to rip their arms off. It's physically impossible. They've already looked into that stuff. 2,200 pounds per square inch.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to dislocate, but
Oh, yeah.
you can't like literally tear the flesh, the ligaments and all the muscles and separate
Exactly.
the limbs. I mean, can you imagine what like wrestling rings and wrestling matches? It would be absolute carnage.
Yep, exactly. Just like we want to also point out, and you know what? Don't believe us. Use your minds. This is what I tell anybody. Okay, if you're interested in this case, read the documents, ask questions. Don't ask questions of either group. This is where you get. This is where you get impartial people. Okay, you call and don't call Apple Valley. Don't call BCA. Go find some
Independent sources.
Right, exactly. And
Phone
they're gonna,
Timbuktu.
Yep.
And ask them. They've got nothing, absolutely no boats in the race. They've got nothing to gain, nothing to lose. What? Find someone who has no connection.
Yep,
and ask them.
Yep, this is exactly why we're telling each and every one of you. Okay, we're telling each and every one of you, you don't have to believe us. Okay, you don't have to. Look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. Okay.
Exactly. We're just pointing people in the direction to look at things, and you will start seeing things differently. But we're not asking you to, you have to believe us. Don't care if you believe us. We don't need you to believe us. But if you really care about the Crowleys, then you should want to find the truth.
Mhm.
And the truth will set you free.
Exactly. So I want to just put.
And the truth will set the Crowleys free and let them rest in peace.
Well, that's the thing. The people that people are claiming they're out there to help the family are actually the ones causing the most damage. Louise, I'm going to bring up a couple things that we did not have scheduled for this. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to bring up, because since we talked a little bit about DNA with the bullet, etc.
Mhm.
Okay. I want to bring up a couple things. And any of you can go look for these people. They're easily, and I mean easily, found on Google. Okay. And when you see who these people are, you are going to know that they're independent. You're going to also know that they know what they're talking about.
Didn't our good friend Sophia recommend one of these people as well back in the day when
One-
she was speaking to us?
You got it. So Sophia recommended a guy by the name of Dan Crane, and that is Crane as in Krane. The man has tons of videos on YouTube. And we also talked to Greg Hampikian. Both of these gentlemen were involved in the John Benet Ramsey case. They were involved in the Amanda Knox case, to mention a few. So these are people who are known not just nationally, but internationally. So I wrote Greg Hampikian on Saturday, July 21st, 2018 at 10:07 a.m. And I asked him a few questions. Okay. I asked him if a bullet fired at point blank range, flat up or slightly away from the head. We both knew that they can cause powder burns, which the body was too decomposed to prove that or not. But given lead is porous, there should be some type of regular DNA from the body in it. Correct. Lead. That is why I specifically said lead, was because the bullets that were used in this incident were hollow points. The tip is lead. They're described to fragment and mushroom. Okay. I also said, is it possible for a bullet fired at point blank range into the skull, where it travels into and out of the skull, which would not have regular DNA and just touch DNA, which there's no place in the documentation, but that's another narrative that's being put out there. Also, is there a possibility that regular DNA may have been thought to have been touch DNA? Greg Hampikian writes me back. Okay. Touch
Yeah.
DNA just means a small amount. It could be from the wound that you describe, with a lot of DNA damaged or lost in heat, transit, or materials contacted. Let's talk about that really quick. Okay. When you fire a bullet, there's a small explosion which creates a lot of heat, and that bullet is traveling at over 300 miles per second. And when it does that, you have more heat, you have drag, friction, etc. You're now hitting a ceiling. Oh, I'm sorry. Did he say heat, transit, and materials contacted? Speaking of materials contacted, I believe item 57 contacted David, had contact with David, the ceiling, and I believe that the ceiling at the house was not plasterboard, but sheetrock.
Yeah.
And it also had contact with wood, and it also had contact with insulation.
Yeah.
So,
Does sheetrock have elements of lime in it?
sheetrock has a lot of elements. It depends on if it was regular sheetrock or Chinese sheetrock. There's different types of sheetrock. So, I did also want to bring up this Dan Crane, the one that was referred by Sophia.
Yeah.
Okay, aka Emma. So Dan Crane writes, it seems the only thing that we can conclude is that there was a small amount of DNA on the slug, item 57, that was suitable for testing. Heat could have damaged the DNA, thereby reducing the quantity that was available for testing. Now, importantly, because they also bring up, we couldn't see blood on the bullet. Okay. There wasn't blood. All right. DNA tests cannot distinguish between DNA that comes from blood, saliva, muscle, or any other tissue. they would all give the same result.
Exactly.
Okay.
And when you're doing a presumptive blood test, you're looking for you're looking for blood. You're not looking for DNA at that stage. And then you do another swab of a different area, and you hope that you're going to be able to find some DNA on there. And guess what? They did.
Yep. So also, you're talking about quantities of DNA that are comparable would be obtained from a fingerprint or test kits, and the test kits pick up a minimal of about 100 cells. When you think 100 cells may sound like a lot, but it's really not. Okay. No DNA test are currently capable of distinguishing between DNA that comes from blood, saliva, muscle, or any other tissue. They are really just intended to say whose DNA is present, not from what tissues it was derived from. The presence of a DNA profile says nothing about the time frame or the circumstances under which the DNA came to be associated with an object. Okay. So when you talk about the contamination we were talking about, okay, it could have been anytime. It could have been 6 months prior. They could have had somebody in that house, and that's unidentified DNA, because they didn't take DNA from everybody. I believe they took DNA from some of the family members, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And people have misconceptions. Oh, they took DNA from the family members because they were trying to figure out who it was. They took DNA, and this is from the investigators. They didn't take DNA to try to bring somebody into the investigation. They tried to take DNA to keep the individuals out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess with that, we'd like to ask you all to not believe us again. We're going to say again, don't believe us. Okay. We ask that you look and you evaluate the evidence that we presented to you, and you form your own opinion. Again, if you don't understand something, either in the documentation we put up or the documentation that you look, hopefully, I mean, I got to tell you, I can't stress this enough. Okay. Don't ask questions from anybody in any group. Okay. Because you can get 100 people giving you 100 different answers. And remember, these people will be trying to put their opinion as your answer. Okay. What you want to do is simple. If you live in Maine, you can call any county in Maine, the coroner's office, medical examiner's office. You can say, hey, I got a question. Okay. The question will be answered. You don't even have to call. You can email. Okay. You got a question about investigative techniques. You can call the police department and ask. Just tell them, listen, I saw this case and it struck me as kind of odd. And I was just wondering if you could, I don't understand this. Can you tell me? And trust me, they'll tell you. Okay. But form your own opinion. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'd be pretty angry about someone leading me down a trail of murder and mayhem, only to find out that it was a way, that only to find out that it was a terrible tragedy fueled by the fan of conspiracy and overactive imaginations, and actively participating in the slandering as well as muddying the names of innocent victims, as well as those who were trying to help those victims gain closure. But worst of all, shoveling dirt onto the memories of those who were lost because of this very sad event.
I agree.
Yep. The very same people, like I said before, the very same people, okay, these individuals that claimed to want the help are the ones that are hurting everybody the most.
Find the truth, not what you want to believe.
the other thing I think I want to point out too is if you go look at the videos that are out there, by all means, please. I have seen countless individuals slandered. I have seen countless individuals accused of murder. I have seen countless individuals indirectly accused of murder. Okay. And Louise, I think it's time that the circle's getting a little tighter.
I agree.
Once again, thank you for joining us. Watch for the next video. Talk to you guys later.